Hey guys, here we are going into round 3 of Ward versus Kovalev in preparation for the rematch. So far, rounds 1 and 2 have been predicated nearly entirely off of lead hand dominance. And I know that some people in the comments are about sick and tired of hearing that, and they want to, talk shit and be like, oh, lead hand dominance, lead foot dominance, blah, blah, blah. But they don't understand like how important these things are in boxing. And in this round, if that guy is still here, you're going to get to find out why it's so important and how powerful of a technique it is to use against your opponent. But this is a really interesting round, and let me know if I'm crazy, you guys, but I watched the round like 5 times, and I kind of think that you could edge it towards Ward. I looked at the official scorecards to see how crazy I was about it after just being hurt, but one of the judges does give it to Ward. I don't know if that guy's, if there's something wrong with him, and then there's something wrong with me for giving it to Ward. But let's watch the round. It's really interesting. Really, really interesting. So Kovalev coming forward, and one thing that that's also different about this round is the style of round that it's fought. The first 2 rounds, Ward was trying to counterpunch a lot, right? He was trying to counter him, and every time Kovalev would land a shot, he would try to return a shot, and Ward was fighting with Kovalev a lot more. He was much closer to him, and we'll kind of take a look. I'll rehash it at the end. I don't want to spend too much time, but really interesting. Getting back into it. Sorry. Kovalev feinting and Ward moving away, and look at Ward keeping the distance with his jab. Right, Kovalev feints him here, and Ward respects the feint and moves back. And look at what he does after the feint. Right, he gets feinted and he moves to the side and he resets. Right, this is going to be really important for the rest of this round. But you can see it right here, and I talked a little bit about it too in the last round, how Ward wound up getting caught on the ropes, and this is like a very similar situation. Right, Kovalev's cutting off the ring, and what does Ward do? He jumps in with this jab, right, and he catches Ward with the jab. And I want to talk a little bit about like the risk versus reward, right? If you're in a bad position, right, and Ward's not in the worst position right now, but whereas last round it was really bad, but this is a very similar situation. You can throw a punch, you can feint and try to get inside, but the thing is at this point, because you're out of position, you don't have anywhere to go to get away from a shot, right? You can't really move back, right? And Ward can move a little bit back right here, but in the other situation he couldn't. You're kind of forced to come at your opponent straight ahead with your feint or your whatever you do, and you're putting yourself into a position where you may take a huge shot. And Ward, fuck. These goddamn hotkeys are killing me. So Ward comes in with this jab, right? He sells out to get the jab. He lands it. Great jab. But look at this left hook from Kovalev too. Kovalev does land the left hook, and even though Ward sells out to jab and to try and mitigate the danger that he's in by being nearly out of position against the ropes, Kovalev's still able to land that shot, right? And that's kind of what you wanna. It's kind of why he just resigned it to just taking a body shot, right, rather than putting himself at risk. I know that might have been like something really nuanced and something like that seems really stupid to point out, but situations like those are the reasons why it's important to just pay the piper. You're out of position. Sometimes you're just gonna have to eat a shot. You're fighting a really high level guy. But Kovalev didn't make the most of it, landing the biggest shot that he could have. But anyway, moving on. Here we got Ward feinting, right? Gives him a feint, doesn't see how Kovalev is going to react to it, instantly throws a right hand, but Kovalev catches it, right? No setup, no nothing. He just stops and throws the punch. But what he does next, after Kovalev gets control of his head, boom. He does kind of pull him down, but Ward comes in here, and it doesn't look like he's trying to put his head up or stand straight up, right? And he kind of winds up grabbing Kovalev's leg and lifting it completely off the ground, trying to tackle Ward. And one of the reasons that he's doing that is if it makes it look like he landed this right hand, if anybody thinks that he landed that right hand and he can tackle him, he's going to get credit for a knockdown, and he's going to be able to even up the score. You know, a pretty dirty tactic. To be honest, if I was Ward's coach, or if I was Ward and I was in a fight and I was fighting Sergey the Crusher, yeah, I can't say that I do anything wrong or anything different, right? When you're in the ring, it's all you, right? This is your whole career, this is your whole livelihood, this is your whole legacy. It's yours, 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 yours. I would probably, I don't know if I would do the same thing, to be honest, but I understand why Ward's doing it. And it might also be because he's still hurt, right? If you look at like how much time that buys him, you know, he sets it up at 43, 42, and then it goes all the way to, you know, that's like almost 20 seconds that he gets out of it, right? But anyway, he shouldn't be doing that. That shouldn't be a part of boxing. But it's so hard for the referee to see that he's grabbing his leg and picking it up from the other side. I don't know. Anyway, let's not focus on that kind of stuff. Let's get back to the boxing. No lead hand dominance from Kovalev now, right? If you notice right here, he's just kind of coming forward. Little bit of a feint, little bit of a feint. Ward feints him. He feints back, right? And one interesting thing is one of the reasons why the feints were so effective in rounds 1 and 2 and the probes were so effective is after Kovalev would throw them, Ward would stay there. Ward would stay there, and he wouldn't reset, right? He would stay there, and then the effectiveness, it sounds stupid, but the effectiveness of those feints is still there, right? Your opponent's trying to engage you in what you're already setting up, and what winds up happening in those instances is Kovalev is much more able to close the distance and walk forward because you're going to engage him in the micro engagement, but he's able to make you act first in the situation. And now what happens is, in this situation, Ward is the one getting feinted. He realizes he doesn't have any control, and he just takes a walk, right? He resets. And that means that all the work that Kovalev did closing the distance, he has to reclose it with more feints and more probes and more whatever, and he's not able to set up his offense. And that's going to be like a key theme for the turning point of this round. Ward here showing lead hand dominance, right? Boom, boom, showing it. As soon as Kovalev starts poking his hand out there, right? Really smart, right? He gets Kovalev to react to it and then throws a jab to the body, you know, kind of mimicking what he's learning from Kovalev, right? Then they touch gloves again, and then Ward catches them with another shot. And you see right here, after the jab to the body, touch gloves again, right? Because you want to control your opponent's lead hand, and then Ward thinks they're going to do it again, and Kovalev just times him with the shot. You know, very similar to what he was doing before, get him to bring his lead hand out when he would bring his lead hand out, and then catch him with the shot. Now, the inside work here, you know, I'm not sure. It doesn't, yeah, that doesn't look like it's a punch, that left inside. Whose fault is this? Okay, so he gets his arm under his head and wraps his arm around his body, and then Kovalev puts him in a headlock. You know, understandable. That's fine. And then this left... Whoops, my video froze. Illuminati. Okay. Yeah, and that's not a real punch. You know, that's not a scoring blow, so we'll move on. And now, really interesting, right here, Ward puts his hand up, and that's not a punch, right? That's a probe, and he's probing Sergey Kovalev to get a feel for what he's trying to do, and then he takes a step back as soon as he realizes that that Kovalev is reacting, and he might be trying to set up a right hand. As you see, Kovalev kind of dips down, right? So Ward learning from not only from Kovalev, from what the tactics he's using him, but learning from his mistakes with using that lead hand dominance, not just leaving it out there to get cracked with a shot. And then because Kovalev is having a hard time closing the distance and getting Ward to fight with him, like he was in rounds 1 and 2, where he was open to getting into exchanges, Kovalev just kind of sells out and throws this jab, right? And Ward's able to get under it. You know, a real change in the tide so far. Again, Ward having trouble closing the distance, because Ward's not on his bicycle, right? But he's using like subtle movement, lateral movement to get away from him, and he's not allowing the feints and stuff to be effective because every time Kovalev throws them, right, Ward just moves away, right? Really good use of lead hand dominance here. And another thing to notice, like in this whole exchange, Kovalev's not using lead hand dominance anymore, right? He's not using the probes. He's feinting, right? But he's not probing. He's not feinting punches, right? But just, you know, regular feints. And right there, you see Ward showing him the jab, and Kovalev's not reacting, right? Not reacting to the probe. So, boom, he gets to eat a shot for it, for not respecting it. And, you know, Ward, you know, kind of doing pretty well in this round. Although there's not a lot going on, right? I guess doing well is subjective since he hasn't gotten knocked out and he hasn't taken any big punches either. But again, now this is really interesting too. Again, what I was saying earlier about the probes, right? He used those last two probes to get a look at Kovalev and see what he's doing, right? And the last time he saw that Kovalev was trying to set him up for a shot, remember he dipped down to his right, so he gives him a probe and then sees that he's going to counter him, and Ward instantly tries to slip what would be the punch. I think that Kovalev was throwing a probing jab too, a probing counter, and Ward kind of commits to it here and puts himself out of position. But as soon as Ward gets into position and is like, you know, close enough to start throwing punches, you can kind of see the danger he winds up getting in as he narrowly misses, as Kovalev narrowly misses this right hand, right? So, again, no lead hand dominance from Kovalev, right? No probing. He's not controlling him with the lead hand, showing it, and Ward is just able to walk in. You know, I'm not sure if this is the cleanest right hand, right? You can tell it kind of hits him, right? But Ward's able to kind of just walk his way in because there's no lead hand dominance here. And I'm not sure why Kovalev has kind of let up on it completely, but he does wind up eating a left hook right there. Yeah, pretty clean left hook. And then Kovalev is the one in this instance that goes to the clinch, even though, you know, Ward pulls his head down. His own head down, I mean, after. He gets his arm around Kovalev's arm, brings his own head down into his chest, and lands a body shot. I think he lands a body shot. It doesn't matter, really. But that was close to being a headbutt when he pulled his arm down. Really interesting. But Kovalev having a lot of difficulty, you know, without using the lead hand dominance, right? He's without putting his jab out there, controlling Ward, and Ward's able to do stuff like this and just kind of walk in, right? And this is why it's so important. Again, no lead hand dominance from Kovalev, right? He's just coming forward. At this point, he's not even really fainting, and he winds up eating a shot right there, you know, all because he's not controlling Ward, and he's kind of allowing Ward to do whatever he wants. You know, they get close enough that he starts working on his game again, and again, trying to feint, trying to set stuff up, because Ward is not staying there after he sets these up, right? He moves on and resets. Kovalev has to reset too, and he has to work his way back in again, and he's only getting to fight when Ward's allowing him to fight. And then again, right here, one of the few times in the round where Ward stops using lateral movement and starts like kind of engaging him. You know, although they're not engaged, right? He's not using his lateral movement to get away from him. Right, much more willing to get into an exchange with them, and then really smart from Ward, right? Kovalev shows him some feints, right? Shows him lead hand dominance, gives him a probe, right? Then Ward controls him with the lead hand, and smartly realizing that whenever he puts his glove out there, that Kovalev is trying to catch him with a shot, right? Ward in the first couple rounds showing that he's not as good with his lead hand as Kovalev is, even though Kovalev's not showing it in this round. But Ward also showing that he's able to read from his opponent's patterns. He's able to understand what's going on in the ring, and keep himself, you know, pretty clear of danger in most of this round. Beautiful feint from Ward right here as Kovalev, totally bites the bait, and Ward controls his head after, right? But a much simpler breakdown now, right? Now that there's no lead hand dominance, everything is basically on the table, right? This is like the really simple parts of boxing that make the breakdown really easy. Some feinting, and then again, right? Ward's pressing the attack, right? I'm not sure why. He's been having so much success just moving away, but as soon as he starts coming forward and allowing Sergey Kovalev to engage him, he winds up eating a shot. And then they kind of tie up here. That body shot, not really, I don't think it counts. I mean, I don't know. It could go either way. I don't want to focus too much on that kind of stuff, but here we go. Kovalev probing, and this is really interesting, right? This is exactly what I think Kovalev should be doing, right? When Ward tries to come in, not just with his head, right? But he comes up with his head. Kovalev actually, it looks like Kovalev blocks it with his right hand. Yeah, it looks like it gets on his right glove a little bit. And then the left arm controls Ward so he can't get in. Kovalev should be doing a very similar thing like this each time, but he should also be taking a step back when he does it. Control his head so that he can fire off a right hand. He doesn't wind up taking any shots or any headbutt right there, but he could do a little more, Anyway, that's the whole round, right? And this is basically what the whole round looked like. This last second, Ward using lateral movement, not allowing Kovalev to catch him, and not allowing Kovalev to engage with him. And the round was much different, right? It stopped Kovalev's feinting and probing from being as effective, because every time Kovalev would do some stuff like that, or he would try to, Ward would just make him reset. He would just move out of the way. I think a little bit of it was Kovalev being tentative because he was hoping to land that big right hand again. But Ward still needs to get credit for the adjustment that he made, And I think that Ward landed more shots in this round. They were definitely the more flashy shots. He landed one good left hook on the inside after Kovalev kind of landed a grazing one on the top of his head, and then he landed that he double left hook where he didn't set the shot up, but Kovalev wasn't controlling him either. He didn't control Ward after he punched, and he didn't control Ward before he punched, and he wound up catching another shot. But rounds like this are the reason why lead hand dominance is so important, right? Why probing and feinting is so important. This wound up being a really not seemingly great round for Kovalev, and I'm not super sure he won it. I don't want to spend a lot of time debating it, but this round was much closer than rounds 1 and 2 because of it, and also because Ward, rather than engaging with him in each of those little instances where Kovalev would feint and probe, rather than engaging with him and trying to be the man and bully him and outfight him in those instances, outthink him and get caught with shots, he would just reset. And that's something that Guillermo Rigondeaux was really good at. When in my film study with Nonito Donaire, anytime Nonito Donaire would feint him and try and probe on him and set up some offense, Rigondeaux would just reset, and wouldn't allow Donaire to put him out of position with those punches or with those feints or with those probes so that he could land real offense. And that's exactly what Ward did in this round. He did a really good job, in my opinion. Yeah, so, the round could go either way. I don't really care. But let me know what you guys think. Who do you think won this round? Yeah, anyway, comment, and subscribe. I'm going to try and do another round. Yeah, thanks, guys.